You're watching Fugitive Red-Eye, and welcome to another episode of OverAnalyzing, the series where I take a more in-depth look at the fictional universes which I love. Today we're going back into the character profiles, and today we'll be talking about Alphonne. Alphonne, also known as Alphonse, or Alphonne Louis Steinbeck III, or Alphonse Louis Steinbeck III. Again, all of this depends on translation and which version of the character we're referring to, because he/she has been in multiple Gonagai works. But Alphonne is a character that Gonagai works into many of his different things. If anything, I would say Alphonne is the most recurring Gonagai character. Now, Jiro's pretty up there, but I'd say Alphonne beats him out a little bit just because he's in a lot of things. For simplicity's sake, I'm going to be using he for most of the video because I tend to find the male Alphonne funnier, but just know that there is both male and female versions of the character. And they are more or less the same, but the main defining characteristic of Alphonne is that he is stupid. He's clumsy, and he's perverted. Alphonne is a very dumb character, always played up for comic relief. He originated in the 1972 Devilman anime, as far as I can tell, although he may have originated in one of Gonagai's mangas prior. It depends on when they were released, because I'm not sure exactly when Omori-kun came out, but Alphonne is in Omori-kun as well. But Alphonne has appeared in Devilman, Omori-kun, Cutie Honey. There's a weird version of Alphonne that has his head switched with Pochi's head in Mazinger Z. Pochi is a character that's always with Alphonne. The two typically come as a package. There's both male and female versions of Pochi as well, but we're going to focus mainly on Alphonne. But just know that Pochi usually is there with Alphonne. And in Cutie Honey, Pochi and Alphonne are in a lesbian relationship because that is the female version of Pochi. Alphonne always is portrayed as a teacher in most cases, and Pochi is typically portrayed as the principal. A main exception to this would be in Omori-kun, where Alphonne is depicted as a beggar, and Pochi is also depicted as a beggar. But Alphonne's main characteristics is he's stupid, perverted, and clumsy, and often getting hurt. He's very much the butt of the joke when it comes to the shows he's in. For instance, in Devilman 1972, there's an episode where there's a demon that's possessing everyone and corrupting them to unleash their dark sides and become evil. But Alphonne is too stupid for that, so it doesn't work, because his brain isn't smart enough to be corrupted, so he's immune. And because of him, he's able to overcome it, which actually helps Devilman defeat the demon in the end. The female version of Alphonne in Cutie Honey is in the earlier episodes a lot more than she is in the later episodes, which is kind of a shame, because I love Alphonne as a character in Cutie Honey as well. She's very funny. She's very much the same character. Ironically, she has more of a pronounced mustache than the male one does, so it's not like they really tried to make her all that feminine. It's basically as if Alphonne was cross-dressing, but it's not. It is confirmed that Alphonne is a female. A lot of the ways I like to look at it is I like to consider the female one like a sister to Alphonne, because I like to think of Gonagai's works all kind of being in a somewhat shared universe. So that's kind of my way of working around that with the different versions of Alphonne and such, because I do feel like it's kind of the Alphonne family throughout the Devilman universe. The biggest inconsistency with that is in both Omori-kun and Devilman 1972, he says straight out that his name is Alphonne Louis Steinbeck III, which if that was the case, that would make Steinbeck the family name and not Alphonne. But there are some inconsistencies with that because he's typically referred to as Mr. Alphonne or Alphonse-san or Alphonse-sensei, which wouldn't make really a whole lot of sense if his last name was Steinbeck. Given the way Japanese culture works, they typically would address teachers by their last name. But again, maybe Alphonne is the last name, and it is maybe just the way that Gonagai wrote it, an English-sounding name with the Japanese way it's presented, with Alphonne being first, but it still being the family name like the Japanese do. That's one way to look at it. The reason he's typically called Alphonse is because there is a lot of the times a mistranslation, or a difference in translation, I should say. Because sometimes it is translated as Alphonse, especially in the manga, like in Devilman Grimoire, it's translated as Alphonse, whereas in the Discotheque release, it's translated as Alphonne in both Cutie Honey and Devilman 1972. Other than the two main versions of Alphonne, I actually feel that there is another version of Alphonne, a third version, one that I call the Luckless Alphonne or Glasses Alphonne. The Luckless Alphonne, as you may have guessed if you're familiar with the Dororon Enma-kun series, is the Mr. Luckless teacher from Ghastly Prince Enma Burning Up. He may also be in the original. I haven't read the original manga, and the original series has not been released in English, so I'm only going off the 2011 remake. That other version is very similar to the male Alphonne. He is depicted as a teacher in the Enma series, but not necessarily in other things. He's also been seen as a store owner in Legend of Dynamic, the Game Boy Advance game. You can also see him in Cutie Honey driving a car. It's unknown what his profession is in that, though. Specifically, new Cutie Honey. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about Alphonne. Let's move on to what the wikis have to say. He does have 2 pages on the Go Nagai wiki, one for the male version, one for the female version, and then she also has a entry on the Cutie Honey wiki, so we'll take a look at each of those. Alright, so we're starting with the Go Nagai wiki entry for the male version of Alphonne, which this one refers to as Alphonse, which I think is a good way to differentiate between the two. Alphonse is a male human teacher of Akira Fudo and Miki Makimura in Devilman the TV series. He is more of a comic relief character who is often the butt of the joke. He's not evil though, and wants to do good for his class. But those kids, man, especially that Akira guy, it's like he's a demon child or something. He was voiced by the great Ichiro Nagai, incidentally no relation to Go Nagai, I checked, who was also Resaru and Zul in Devilman TV series, Dr. Kazumi in BAOH, not entirely sure what that one is, Karin / Whiskers the Wonder Cat, and Crane Hermit in Dragon Ball. I assume that's the Harmony Gold dub, since it says Whiskers the Wonder Cat. Dr. Tachibana in Getter Robo Go, General Julie Caesar in Episode 3 of Great Mazinger, and the list just goes on and on. The one I know him from is from Wicked City. He played the old man in Wicked City. But that one, curiously, isn't actually listed here, but I'm not going to go over all of them. Cameos. Cutie Honey. In here, they made a female version of him. She even has a mustache and likes chicks. Her name? Alphonne. So now we're going to look at the female version. Alphonne. She is a teacher at Honey Kisarage's school, and less for Honey, the curvy girl, not the food. She looks kind of like that guy from Devilman the 70s show, but seems more female, but still likes women. Curvy women, like Honey and her boin. Boin? The fuck does boin mean? Not entirely sure I'm familiar with that term. Anyway, she's also in a lesbian love relationship with Principal Pochi, and in the manga are shown to be in the woods naked together. She was played by Noriko Tsukasi in Cutie Honey, who is also Gonde in Devilman, and Haru Dira in Grendizer. She was played by Kujira, who was Orochimaru in Naruto, and others in New Cutie Honey. So, interestingly enough, Chisu doesn't actually mention this here, but he might later on in the article. I actually haven't read that far down. But the New Cutie Honey version is actually like a descendant of the original, since it takes place many years later, and she's actually a reporter. Anyway, in the ADV dub, she was called Reporter and Drag, and was done by Doug Smith. I didn't know that, because I haven't actually watched the dub of New Cutie Honey, so that's funny that they decided that the reporter version of Alphonne was a drag queen in New Cutie Honey, in the dub anyway. She was played by Toshio Furukawa, who was and still is a man in Cutie Honey F. I haven't actually watched Cutie Honey F. That's a Cutie Honey Flash, for those of you who don't know. I haven't actually watched it. He was the voice of Piccolo in Dragon Ball Z, Shin in Fist of the North Star, and more. Like I said, I'm not going to go over each and every person they played. Cutie Honey Anime. In this series, she is a teacher at Honey-chan's school, and less after Honey Kisarage and her good, sexy looks. She is often used for comic relief and looks mannish / unattractive. Well, some people like her. After the school is blown up, she tries to win money at a casino, and doesn't appear again until the final episode. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. Later on in the series, they kind of write her out of it for many of the episodes, and she doesn't really show up again until later. Cutie Honey manga. In here, she is mainly the same character as the anime. Her lesbian love relationship with Principal Pochi is seen in Volume 1, page 91. Well, there you go, for those of you who are curious. When they are in the woods naked together. She is killed in Volume 2, page 121. Now, that's a spoiler right there, but I knew that because I've already read it. Anyway, where she holds up Miharu Tsuneni's head before her body is blown up and her head flies off from a blast. Yeah, it was actually really sad. I liked Alphonne, so she dies in the manga version. New Cutie Honey. In here, she has a brief cameo in New Cutie Honey OVA 8 as a TV reporter. Cutie Honey Flash. She is Donbei Jaime's older sister. Really? That is weird. Like, Chisu himself even says it's weird. And, again, with the Go Nagai wiki, I always assume it's Chisu doing the writing. Granted, it's probably him and a few other people, but he's the one who runs this wiki, so if I'm giving miscredit to people, I do apologize for that. But you can always look at the people who worked on the articles as well when you look at them yourself on the site. So yeah, just for reference, if I ever give improper credit when looking at the wikis, I do apologize for that. I typically say Chisu just because he's the one who I feel contributes the most to this wiki, since he's the one who runs it. But I know that there are other people who work on it. Anyway, now that's out of the way. She is Donbei Jaime's older sister in this version. Weird. And has a pet dog named Pochi. Again, weird considering the above. She doesn't appear to be a lesbian in this version, however, then again, who is? Cutie Honey. I seem to recall her being here for a few seconds in a scene where I think she was watching TV. Yeah, I think I remember that too. It is really brief though, so it is kind of hard to say. Cameos. Devilman TV version, Akira's teacher, Professor Alphonne, is what she was based off of, right down to the mustache. Keko Common. She has a brief cameo as a student in the background in a kind of Where's Waldo cameo thing. Hanape Bazooka. In Hanape Bazooka OVA, she appears in a few frames of Hanape Yamada's fantasy of the chick he likes starring in a porno video. Alright, so that's the Gonagai wiki. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the Cutie Honey wiki now. Alright, so it actually looks like Alphonne has several different articles on the Cutie Honey wiki. So we'll start with the manga version. Alphonne, manga. Mrs. Alphonne is the homeroom teacher of Honey Kisarage and Natsukao Aoki in St. Chapel Academy. She is a lesbian and in a relationship with the Academy's principal, Pochi. Miss Alphonne has had a rather unique appearance, having a strangely shaped face and no visible nose, a long lockjaw, and wide eyes. She had short, dark hair and wore a long dress. Miss Alphonne appears to be a relatively ordinary person with an optimistic view on life. She likes her students and was attracted to Honey, and was in a lesbian relationship with the school's principal, Pochi, often sharing moments in private away from the Academy. History. Miss Alphonne first appeared to present Honey as she transferred to the Academy. She took an interest in Honey, much like her students did. At some point, she met with Principal Pochi to share a sexual moment until the sun rose up. When Panther Claw attacked the school, Miss Alphonne caught the head of Miharu until she was caught in an explosion that killed her. Trivia. Miss Alphonne is a female version of Dr. Alphonne from Gonagai's earlier manga, Kikai-kun. Ah, so maybe that's where he originated. See, because I have never read Kikai-kun. I have read Kikai vs. Omori, but I've never found Kikai-kun on any of the readers I use, so that right there tells me that that might be where he originated. And a doctor at that. I can't imagine Alphonne is a doctor. That's fucking nuts. Anyway, let's look at the TV version. Alphonne, TV. Miss Alphonne is a teacher at St. Chapel Academy, acting as the homeroom teacher for Hane Kisarage and Natsuko Aki. Miss Alphonne has a distorted appearance, a long lockjaw, small close-gated eyes that are accented with makeup, and short red hair. Her usual clothing consists of a yellow dress and a red necklace. Personality, Miss Alphonne is fond of her students, and she likes cute girls, particularly Honey, compared to her strict co-worker, Miharu Tsuneni. She has a habit of having both hands on her bust at random times. Miss Alphonne was usually seen in class, interacting with her students, and going on trips. She remained unaware of Honey's secret identity, even though she always disappeared when danger was present. An Alphonne lookalike, possibly a descendant, cameos in the last episode of New Cutie Honey. Alright, now let's look at the final version, the Alphonne from Cutie Honey Flash. Chairwoman Alphonne is the school board president at St. Chapel Academy, and the older sister of Principal Donbei. Donbei's a fucking principal in that version? I need to see Flash. I have not seen it, as you can tell. Appearance and personality. Alphonne's design is similar to other counterparts, including the semi-crooked face, hairstyle. She observes the school walking around with her dog Pochi. She has more of a liking to female students than male ones, but is not completely hostile towards them. Abilities. As the board president, Alphonne has more authority than Donbei, which gives her power over the school. However, she does not really abuse her position, but she can get in her brother's face about activities she decides to, which he can't say no to. And there's not really anything written about her history on that one. Trivia, Alphonne's ownership of a dog named Pochi references the original's counterpart with the Pochi in the original series. Anyway, that's all these wikis have to say about them, so that's all I really have to say today. I'm going to try to get the next OverAnalyzing, the Part 5 of the Red Dwarf novels one recorded. However, there may be a gap between when I actually do that one, because I actually am going to reread backwards, because I haven't actually reread it in quite some time. I do remember most of it, but there may be a delay on that episode, and I apologize for that, but I want to make sure my information is as accurate as can be. So, also, one other thing I want to mention before I end the video. Alphonne was second place in a poll of who I should do a profile on next. I'll have a poll on this video as well. Again, these characters can be whatever. They don't have to necessarily be from a Go Nagai series or even an anime at that. Some options I have thought of doing is I'm going to do one about Amori at some point. Amori doesn't have any wiki articles, so I'm going to be doing that one completely from memory, so that one will be one that I'm going to look into maybe a little bit more and rereading and looking over the manga, but he doesn't have a ton of depth, so it shouldn't be that hard. Another one that I'm going to do will be possibly Violence Jack himself. Because I haven't actually done one on him, and I think that would be a really good one to do. Other than that, as far as non-Go Nagai characters, maybe I could do one about Kakihara from the Ichi the Killer series, or possibly Ichi himself. Other than that, maybe I could do some live-action characters, like I said before, maybe I could do some of the Red Dwarf characters, like Rimmer or Lister. I'll put a poll up in the corner. If there's one that you don't see in the poll that you want, just let me know in the comments, because I am limited to how many I can put in the poll. On top of that, if there's one that I haven't mentioned, feel free to mention it, and if it's one that I'm familiar with, I'd be happy to do a video on them. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye, and you have a great day.
Subscribe to Fugitive Red Eye.